Hello, I'm Rachel from Douentza Garden in Ireland, and you are very welcome to this May garden tour. May is just such a beautiful month. It's when summer really gets going and so many things sprout and come into flower, and the garden is just awash with new growth. It's a time when we're so glad that we did that bit of gardening from March onwards. Otherwise, you look out your window and you see a mass of weeds and a mass of things to be done. But we gardeners, we're not in that boat. We've already been working since March, and now we can enjoy the bounty of the summer. So in this video, we're going to take a look around my garden, which is an acre in size. I guess that's half a hectare, and I'm located in a rural area in Southern Ireland. So come with me and let's have a look what's in bloom and what's looking good and what I've been doing in the garden so far this year. If by chance you're new to the channel, then I will just let you know that I garden in what roughly equates to as hardiness zone 9. Now in Ireland we don't use that system, so take it as a rough guide of what I might get through the winter, but it's not a guide as to how much rain we might have or how much sun we might have in the summer. And speaking of sun, oh my goodness, it has been so warm this May and April as well, pretty much. There was a late frost in April, just the day after I left for Turkey in fact, but now it's just scorching the whole time. It's just a little bit of a worry because there are two things to look out for. Number one is that, of course, if this continues for too long, our grasses are going to go brown, the lawn is going to go brown, and we're going to have to be rushing around like Aegis, watering plants in the garden that we never have to water normally. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. And the second thing to be aware of is that it is so tempting to plant out tenders and annuals because, I mean, look at it. It's lovely, but we could still get a late frost. And in Ireland, the last date by which frost can come is generally considered to be the 1st of June. Now, you can plant out in your garden towards the end of May, but do keep an eye on the weather forecast, because if frost is forecast, you're going to have to go out there and you're going to have to cover up those annuals with fleece or bananas with fleece just to make sure that they're not frosted. So what have I been doing in the garden lately? And well, not planting my annuals out yet is the answer to that, but certainly I have been doing a lot of planting out. Both perennials, these are plants that I bought recently or bought last year, and also biennials that I grew from seed last year, such as Canterbury bells and sweet williams and foxgloves. Those are being planted out now because, of course, these can tolerate the frost. They're quite hardy. In fact, they could have been planted out last autumn, but now it's great because I can see where the spaces are in the border and where I need a bit of an injection of colour, and I'm putting the plants in the ground. So with these things in mind, let's have a look around the garden, and I think we're going to start off over there first, where I have a wonderful update on my Clematis. Today we're going to start the May garden tour over here beside my Clematis, because May is the month for flowering Clematis. And some of you who've watched the channel for a time will recall how several years ago I had an ugly stump from a conifer that I no longer wanted. So I clothed it with 3 types of Clematis, 2 of which are Clematis montana. And you can see that this year, finally, my stump is completely covered in Clematis. You can just see a tiny little bit of wood sticking out on this side, but it's just glorious in May when the 2 types of montana are in bloom at the same time. So the bigger flowers, the white ones, are not a cultivar at all. So these are the Alba variety. And then the smaller ones are a cultivar known as Marjorie, and I think they complement each other beautifully. There is a third clematis in here somewhere over the other side, which flowers later on in the season, but it really can't match the display that we have here in May. Today I'm using my macro lens to film, and with that we can see the intimate detail of these flowers up close, and you'll appreciate it further when we move on to looking at my hardy orchid bed. So the real trick in getting clematis to cover an area properly is to have patience, to constantly wrap the new shoots down low on whatever it is that you want to cover. And you know, the plant will want to climb and go up naturally. Don't let it. Keep it going round and round at the base until it's completely covered that area, and then allow it gradually, with your help, to progress upwards. And the result is definitely worthwhile, because once a climber has gone up, it's almost impossible to get it to go down and cover the base again. Did you notice the yellow bush just to the right of the stump with the clematis on it? Well, if you are standing where I am, you definitely notice it, because it pumps out a heady scent all around the garden that goes right into the greenhouse, which is just very close to it. Now, this is Coronilla glauca, a plant I grew for many years in a pot in the greenhouse, until I realised that actually I can get away with planting this outdoors in the garden. And at the moment it is just magnificent. It's a glorious yellow, but the main thing with this plant is the scent, the heady scent. Now, I'm not saying that it particularly goes with the clematis colour-wise, but I have to have it here because when I go to work out in the greenhouse in spring, it encourages me so much to have this scent coming through the greenhouse door. So that's Coronilla glauca, and if you're in Ireland, do try it outdoors. It needs stony soil, well-drained soil, and lots of sun. And this year, my goodness, we're certainly getting lots of sun. So now, let's move on over here where we can see my hardy orchid bed. I think this might be the first time I bring you the hardy orchid bed in full flower in a video. A bed that was purpose dug over 10 years ago, and this year we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in fact all of the cypripedium in either flower or bud. We'll start with this big boy here at the back that needs a kind of stake to hold him upright, and he has a yellow pouch and kind of browny yellow whiskers. Just one flower on him. Moving down to the right, we have one with a very large pouch, big flowers, and 2 flowers on this one this year. And in fact, this one looks very similar to the one I'm going to show you at the very front. This little one in here wasn't so little to start with. In fact, it produced several shoots around the outside, and they had buds, but they kind of rotted off at the base. And I don't know if you recall, but earlier on in the year when I made a garden tour video, I mentioned how some dog had been coming in and messing around in my hardy orchid bed, kind of digging, and it was exactly in this spot here. I put a grid over it in the end, but I wonder, is there some poop in there or something that has made the plant abort its spikes before it got going. Anyway, I can't see anything, but we'll see if it sorts itself out for next year. It's a pity. The one that's doing best of all is this gorgeous fellow here. It has smallish flowers, but there are 5 of them this year. Yes, 5 flowers, and 4 of them have the good grace to display themselves at the front of the border so that you can actually see them. There is a 5th one right here at the back, kind of nodding into obscurity behind, which is no good at all, is it? But this is a nice, healthy plant. Lots of green pleated leaves and these amazing red flowers. The pouch is kind of elongated and stretches forward, and the flowers are really gorgeous. I mean, I suppose the pouch is slightly larger than that of the yellow one, although the whiskers are smaller. Now, I can't give you a name for this one. I did check before coming out, but I bought it in a garden centre with no distinctive label attached, so sorry. And over here to the right, we have one that has large flowers again and a very hairy kind of whiskery thing at the back. And this is extremely similar to the second one I showed you in shape and size and even in colouring, although the colouring is slightly different. There's a bit more of a red striation going on in the petals here than in the previous one. This one offers me 2 flowers as well. This one has been here for a good while, maybe, I don't know, 5 years or something like that, whereas the one behind is newer. And in terms of the plant, it's not as bulky as the other one in terms of lush green growth. But I hope that with careful feeding, it'll come around again. And the thing with hardy orchids is to remember the real trick to getting them to flower successfully is to feed, and to feed in February. Yes, February, when it's freezing cold and you don't want to think about the garden. You need to get slow release fertilizer and get out there and feed your orchids. Otherwise you'll have very few flowers. I forgot this little one in here. I can't remember which one this is, but it is offering me 1 flower bud so far. It must be a little bit later than the others. There are more growths coming, so maybe it will delight with a few more flowers later on. But I really love this year how the hardy orchid bed has so many in flower at the same time. At the same time is good. And you will note that right there in the middle there is a spot, so I could get another hardy orchid and put it in there. I could even remove that heuchera there on the left. What the heck is that about? It was a filler originally, but now that the hardy orchids are doing well and flowering well, I can afford to take it out. You may see at the back how I have planted Meconopsis. And you may recall the video from a few years ago where I sowed Meconopsis seeds of various different types. And the resultant plants I put here at the back of the hardy orchid bed because I know they do well, and it is a kind of fussy plant. I guess you might call this my fussy plant corner. And by a bizarre coincidence, while I planted the blue Meconopsis here in the hardy orchid bed because it's fussy, I have another Meconopsis just over here. This one is not fussy. In fact, I never planted this. It just popped up, so obviously it came to me in some pot that I bought. And it's the orange Welsh Meconopsis, I think it's called. But it just spreads about. Very pretty thing, and I'm very glad to have it. And over here, by chance, some more of those little Meconopsis, the Welsh poppies, have seeded in among my Elstrom area. And they look so jolly, I think I'm going to leave them. So if we just progress over to just a little way away from that bed, and we can see my crocus lawn. Now I've done a bit of an experiment this year, and I planted Dutch irises in with the crocuses. They look fantastic at the moment with the pure white of the Dutch iris contrasting, or not even contrasting, but complementing the less white, I suppose really kind of creamy white or pinky white of the cherry blossom tree, which is just going over. Now I do think it looks magnificent, but the disadvantage is that it extends the period of time that you need to keep the grass long. But the long grass has its own charm and is, of course, very beneficial to a variety of insects. Moving over here, you can see that this little path has had a bit of an upgrade in the form of my Extracodra macrantha, which has been cut back. And I just needed to do that because the path was getting impassable. So some branches were removed. Moving over to this path, which extends down to the lower part of the garden, and you can see on the left Calycanthus, a beautiful shrub that has the most amazing red flowers. Now they're not fully open yet, and when they do open fully, it is magnificent. gorgeous. So many garden visitors ask about that. And they also ask about this Douentza just planted beside it. So this has very exotic looking flowers with yellowy mustardy throats, bell-like flowers, and it's a vision when it's in bloom. It's produced quite a trunk for me now, and that has its own attraction because of the peeling bark. Moving on a little bit, we can see that Magnolia Star Wars is still pumping out a few of its large blossoms, and these really are very large flowers. I'm just lucky that there are enough of them lower down so that you can see them properly, because that can be the problem with big magnolia trees, especially the beautiful species ones. They get so tall in time that the flowers are lost from sight, and certainly you've no appreciation of the size. Moving over a little bit further, we can see my Trillium grandiflora, which I moved last year, and it has gone from strength to strength. It seems very happy in this position, and so I will not disturb it. I will leave it be. It seems to be producing pinkish flowers now at the end of its season, rather than living up to its name of grandiflora. This bed also has a Bergenia in flower, and I really like the two-tonedness of the flowers. I think they open quite pale and then fade to a darker pink, or maybe it's the other way around. Anyway, it looks really quite lovely, cascading here at the back of the border and being shown off against the blue Aquilegias. Now this is where my intersectional peonies live, and I'm sorry to say that I have none in flower at the moment. So maybe there'll be another garden tour nearer the end of the month, because I always feel that May, it's the time of irises and it's the time of peonies, and yet I've none in flower in my garden just yet. But I do see a little job that needs doing in there. Now this isn't an intersectional peony, it's a herbaceous one, and it needs support. The great thing about the intersectional ones is that they don't need support. And I have this metal kind of frame that I place around this herbaceous peony. But as you can see, this year it has decided to grow up outside of the frame. So I will just need to lift it out very carefully and reposition it so that when this peony blooms, it will have the support it needs. And it looks like I'm getting one flower this year. But you know what? One flower is better than no flowers. Oh my goodness, I have to laugh out loud when I see my hand appearing in this footage. Oh yes, I have calluses, weeding calluses. These are my credentials as a gardener. I do have a number of very jaunty looking Aquilegias in this bed, Granny's Bonnet, because this is a very promiscuous plant and it crosses with every other Aquilegia that's in the garden. So I have pink, I have blue, I have all kinds of different shapes. It's a great plant for a cottage garden effect, and especially if you want little seedlings popping up here and there, then Aquilegia really is the plant for you. Moving further down the garden, we can see viburnum in full flower, and also Quinacloa rubra, the New Zealand tussock grass, seems particularly red this year in the sunshine. Here it is with an orange rhodo I bought as Harvest Moon a few years ago, but I think Harvest Moon is supposed to be yellow, and this one is clearly orange. Just a little glance down some paths, and this one here is flanked by the two resident gargoyles. And beside them we have a froth of pretty flowers, geums mostly, but I think I see an astrantia in there which is just beginning to flower. And I love these colours together. It's so joyous, especially with the yellow bamboo canes in the background. I think it looks so nice. A new plant to note is this Felicia, which is very hardy for me, perfectly hardy for me. It was a recommendation from someone at a plant fair. He said, "You like unusual plants, Rachel, take this." So I did, and yeah, I think it's great. So it is quite vigorous and it produces masses of these aster-like flowers, which are quite delightful. It hasn't seeded or run in any obnoxious way with me so far, so it's good. And over here, just beyond the Monarda, I seem to have lost something. There's certainly a gap, so I filled it with biennial campanulas, which are about to flower. Can't wait to see them in bloom. So they're going to be pink and blue and white, I think, as well. And down here, there's been a bit of a winter loss in the form of my Cniphofia, my red hot poker. So this one is coalescence and I've had it for many years. Sometimes a bit rots off in winter, but this winter, oh my goodness, so much rotting, so much loss. And the worst thing was that before I went away to Turkey, I didn't cut back the rotten bits. I left it. It was the one job I didn't get to before I left. With the result that when I came back, it had extended so much further, so I had to do even more cutting back. But I still do have a good bit of the plant. The result of all that was a big gap. So I've decided to put some of my biennial campanulas in here as well. And they're just sitting here waiting for me to come along and dig a hole. Actually, they look like they need a bit of a water because they've been here since yesterday. It's been so sunny. I just didn't fancy digging the hole yesterday, so I left them here to fend for themselves. Moving further over, we can see that the box bowls and the box hedge seems to be doing well. They seem to be recovering well from the blight. I applied the top buxus fertilizer already this spring, and fingers crossed, I'm not going to trim them this year, just going to give them a chance to recover. And over here we have a plastic mound. Well, this is my lasagna bed, and this is the bed where I'm going to plant up the most amazing flowers in autumn or perhaps in spring. I'm just waiting for the level to drop a bit, indicating that everything underneath the plastic has rotted down quite well, and then I can plant. And autumn and spring are the perfect time for planting, so you know, I have all of that to look forward to. But I really have to show you something very exciting here in the corner. And yes, it's my cardiocrinum clump. It is now very clearly a clump, not a plant, a clump. This year I am going to have 5 flower spikes. So really I'm delighted with how this is doing. You can still see a few holes in the leaves from the lily beetle, which I seem to have overcome mostly in the garden, although there is still damage. Cardiocrinum, of course, is in the lily family, so lily beetle is going to attack it as well as lilies and fritillarias and other plants in the same family. Here's a little view of the Bergenia bed, the one I planted up just last year, and it was planted up with rootless propagation material, and just look at it now. So a great plant for a shady, dry area. Let me just show you another few plants before we wrap it up. And over here we have a nice clump of blue Corydalis, a proper blue. We all know that in gardening blue is the hardest colour to get, and what we generally refer to as blue is really purple, but this is a true blue. And the Brunnera is looking quite good too, and actually, now that I mention it, the Brunnera has a true blue flower too. It's a great plant for partial shade, and well, the silver leaves, they just do a great job of brightening up any dark spot. And I just adore this combination here. Now, we all know that parrot tulips generally don't come back year on year. You plant them one year, they look magnificent the following spring, and then the following year you have just 1 or 2. The next year maybe 1, and then they're gone. Well, in my garden I have about 3 individual parrot plants that are, I suppose, survivors of that whole process, and this is one of them, and it keeps coming back year on year, which is so surprising and so not expected. But this year it has popped up and it is flowering right beside a low-hanging rhododendron branch, and the two together, well, you couldn't stage this if you wanted. I really think they look fantastic, just hanging out there, best buddies. And now we have come to the end of the video, and also to the end of the tulips. So that parrot tulip, the flaming parrot tulip, was the very last tulip to be in flower in my garden. And speaking of tulips, I would like to remind you of last week's video, which I'm sure you'll love if you go and check it out. So in April, I visited Turkey, Istanbul specifically, to see the amazing tulip festival they have there. So if you love tulips, even though they've gone out of your garden, be reminded of what they look like by checking out my video and hearing how the sultans, the Ottoman sultans of years ago, celebrated tulip time in style. Oh yes, they certainly did. So I will link to that video at the very end of this and down the description below, and I hope you'll check it out. And of course, if you're still thinking about tulips in your mind and you are aware of gaps in your displays that you want to fill for next year, do bear in mind that my favourite Dutch bulb company, Bulby, they are now offering a pre-order service on their site. So there are two sites, there's one for the UK and there's one for the EU. And if you go in there, you can pre-order your bulbs for autumn, to arrive in autumn, and you can specify the week in autumn that they should arrive. You can order them now while they have the complete stock, and you get a full range of the best colours and the newest varieties for this season. If you do that as well, there's a discount code that I will give you down the description below, which will get you an additional 10% off Bulby's already cheap prices. And just with that little reminder, I think I'm going to wrap up the video now. I hope your gardening is going amazingly. And did you want to see that calloused hand again? Ooh, it's a test of a real gardener, isn't it? Now you know that I do the weeding myself. Okay, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.